Welcome back to another episode of the Downsizing Roadmap podcast with your hosts, Jody Roscoe and Heather Fisher. We're talking about all things downsizing, from our own experiences with clients to guest experts. Let's make downsizing easier, one conversation at a time.
Hi, welcome to the Downsizing Roadmap podcast. Regrets.
Yeah.
I'm going to talk a little bit about regrets that people have with downsizing, how to avoid them, and what might cause them. So,
yeah, I'll say though, right up front, most people don't regret it. So I think, we definitely will talk about some things that they regret keeping and some things that they might regret tossing. But I would say if we look at it as an overall picture, there's not a lot of regret. People are most often saying, I wish I had done this sooner.
yeah, I was going to say one of the biggest regrets is
Yes.
not necessarily things that they regret about doing it. It's regretting delays
Yes.
and not doing it at all, and all of that. So
For sure.
We'll go through the good, the bad, the ugly,
Yes.
and how to make it all as good as possible.
Yeah, so keep listening. It's not a whole regret, like everything's sad episode. So
Yeah, put us out of a job if everybody didn't do it.
Right. I'm Jody Roscoe.
I'm Heather Fisher.
So it's not about like shaming or, feeling, bad about regrets. Some of the regrets are, like we said, we wish we had, started earlier. But there are some things to think about when you're doing it. And so it's just about like clarity and, hindsight looking back that some of our clients have said. And so just kind of getting an idea of what that could look like for you. And
We've talked about this so much that, change is hard.
Yeah.
And so...
But not bad, necessarily.
Not bad, but it's hard
Hard.
to see that future fully ahead. And so there are some valleys in the midst of it where I think people think that they're feeling regret over the total process, but they're really just not giving it that long enough, through that valley of the low point of it's hard and there might be some periods of overwhelm or it's just different. And so you're feeling a lot of emotions, decision fatigue, all of that. And so what people are naming as regret is just some feedback on like, yep,
and their emotions.
change is hard.
Yep. Right.
Yeah.
Right. And sometimes we'll get into my thoughts on regret here in a minute. We'll get into it in a minute. But the science of regret, the brain remembers potential losses more strongly than it remembers gains.
Yeah.
So that's why people have FOMO, right? Fear of, missing out on things, right? And a loss aversion is stronger than a gain, like or a positive thing. So when people are worried about, what if I feel bad about letting go of this or whatever, that fear, that feeling is stronger than what if I keep it, because so then you can get into a loop of like, well, I don't feel as yucky thinking about keeping it, but you will feel yucky having too much and feeling overwhelmed and anxious by the too much. So
Yeah, absolutely. That's a different way of thinking about it, but so true.
yeah.
Yeah.
So our memories attach meaning to objects far beyond the physical role. And this is basically what we say all the time is, stuff is just stuff without a story, right?
Yeah.
So we say that all the time. And that's what we're saying here is that we attach a meaning to the object, but what we really care about is the story about the object or the story that looking at the object brings up for us when we're, looking at it and what we're remembering.
Yeah, and I think a lot of times something else that happens is that fear of future regret. So we're not even actually regretting getting rid of something. We just don't get rid of enough because we're fearful, I might need that,
Right.
extension cord. I might need that.
Right.
We're fearful about those things, and if we reframe it and look at how simple it might be to replace or the monetary value of replacement over keeping too much, all of those things, it's a non-issue, but we get kind of stuck in that fear that we will regret letting things go.
Right. And on the flip side, we also regret keeping things too long. We just can't win sometimes with ourselves. Our brains are crazy places.
Isn't that the truth?
So we regret keeping things too long, and the cost of keeping it or storing it. If you have a storage unit, we know that now.
I sure do.
Time, that you worry about it, energy that you're spending worrying about it, all these delayed decisions and the anxiety that comes with those. So there's regret on both sides, either keeping things too long or letting things go. But I do say I find that a lot of times people worry about the letting things go, but then once they've let them go, they don't remember them.
Yeah. You had that happen
Yeah.
when you cleaned out a big clean out of your kitchen,
Yeah.
and you don't remember. And through everything I've been through with the last few moves, I know that when the donation people came to my house, the first house I sold, that I had almost a full garage full of stuff.
Right.
And I was talking to my daughter, and I'm like, I don't remember what we didn't keep.
Right, you don't.
Yeah, and then I have the regret on what we did keep.
Right.
So
Then you're
cannot
opening
win.
boxes of things that you kept, and you're like, why did I keep these things?
Yes.
So yes, and I would say most of the time, if you're on the fence, let it go. And if you have to in the future replace it, it's not going to be very many things that you would replace. And some stuff's not really replaceable. So I had some of the things that my mom had, I didn't keep because I couldn't keep everything, or I thought I don't need that. And there have been a few times where I was like, I wish I had that because it reminds me of this thing. But the truth is, I'm still remembering the thing without the object. Like, I'm still having that memory. Like, there's one thing, she had this print of this chapel in Paris that we went to when we went to Paris. And I'm like, why didn't I keep that? But I still fully have the memory of going there, of walking through it, of it being like this little jewel box, and my mom, talking to me about it. And so the print, I don't actually need it. I mean, I kind of think about it and I think, why didn't I keep it? But I still have the memory. So it's not the stuff. Like, it is still that strong memory for me without the stuff. And I think that's something to remember when you're starting to feel regret, like, why don't I have this thing? As long as you have the memory, it's okay.
Yeah, and the memory, and you love that because it's attached to your mom and your love for your mom. And so there are other things that you cannot keep at all. We've talked about that so many times. If there's 1,000 things that you could pick up that would give you a tinge of memory of your mom, you can't keep them all.
Right.
You can't bury your life under that. So you can miss the sum of those that you don't keep, but letting that go into full regret, it's just looking at like, but I have that love for my mom, and I have these things that I gave that higher priority to.
Right.
And just being okay with that.
Yeah. So, so things that people regret about keeping too long.
Furniture.
Yeah, it's because it was expensive to begin with, and so they feel like guilty. It's all guilt, by the way. Most of this is guilt. Yeah. They spend a lot of money on it, and it's totally not in style anymore, but they don't know what to do because they feel like they spend a lot of money on it, so they should keep it. Or their kids should take it because they spent a lot of money on it.
Yeah, and I think that there's different choices on that. If it's a burden to buy something different, then that's one situation. But if you are, have the ability to buy something that works better for you, that you love more, that you have, and someone else who has a greater need can use the one you spent the money on, that's such a win-win. You're passing that to someone who can really use it, and you are setting up a space that you love with things that work the best for your current space.
Yeah. I spent a lot of money on it, and we also hear it was my grandma's, it was my, somebody's in the family, and they gave it to me, and I never really did like it, but here it is, and it's still in my house. And our thought process on that is, unless you love it and you want to look at it and, feel good about it every day, it's okay to let it go. So give yourself that permission to not have to hold on to every single thing because you feel guilty about it. Like, that's not a gift. Guilt is not a gift, right? And so if you're keeping furniture, because it was expensive or because you don't, your grandma had it or whatever that is. And you don't love it. If you love it, keep it, use it. Yeah. Absolutely. If it's still your style, do that. But most people think, why have I had that in my house this whole time that I'd never really liked it in the first place?
Yeah, I think you have to evaluate things not by whose it was or where it came from or how much you spent on it. Those are all past things. You have to evaluate something like, does this give me a positive hit of dopamine when I walk by it? Or does this bring me down in frustration because you don't like it or you don't know what to do with it or it's overcrowding? Like, is it giving your brain those little positive pings or negative? And that's more your decision-making process, because it's back to, there will be many things that belong to people you love in your life, but is it bringing you that, oh my gosh, I love this teacup that my grandma used every day, or frustration and those negative pings associated with that, just because you're like, what am I supposed to do with this?
Yeah. And I think that we need to remember, if things were expensive, and times have changed. So IKEA turned us all into something else, right? It's, inexpensive stuff that you can switch out. It doesn't, it's not super high quality furniture and whatever. And I think people that was different before. Like, you would go to Ethan Allen or you get Henderdon, you get all these, furniture lines that were expensive. And it was kind of like the thought process is, you buy that once and you have it forever because it's quality and the construction of it's quality and all of that stuff. And so the mindset has changed of what that looks like. But also, you have to look at it like, you used that value.
Yeah,
you
absolutely.
have used that value. You enjoyed it. You had your holiday dinners around that table. It does not fit in the new place. But just because it was expensive at one time doesn't mean that you need to keep it now. That value has been used and enjoyed.
Yeah, yeah. So a couple other things in this category about things people keep too long: boxes of paper and photos.
So much paper.
So much. And at some point, unless you are, an amazingly organized person, at some point there's just a project involved in your paperwork and your photos. And if you can see through the trees and know that there, is an end in sight, use all the tips we've given in different episodes, get through it, and then apply that maintenance of keeping it up. We've had a few episodes on both of these topics, and great to do, but get through that initial project and then keep it up, because the last thing you want to do if a move comes up, that you're moving or you're going to a smaller space, is to take up all of your closet space with just boxes of things that still need to be gone through, and you're not enjoying them or even knowing if they're important if they're just in the boxes. Yeah,
this is why we say, it's not a process, or it's not a project. It's a process, right? Yeah. So it's something that you need to, create a habit around, and it's not a one-time project, which is why people get overwhelmed, because it's a giant project by now because you've let it go way too far. And if you turn that into a habit where you just, first of all, you're going to have to go through that paperwork and through those photos and through all that stuff. But once you've done that, if you continue just 15 minutes a day, we're just going to sort through these things. We're not going to let it pile up. Just like, I don't know, I said this to my kids when they were little. They didn't listen. But I didn't listen to myself when I was little. I did the same thing. But, when your room gets into a giant mess, and then it takes 8 hours all day long to clean up, right? Versus you just pick up those clothes every day and put them in the hamper, and you always live in a cleaner space and a calmer space and all of that. So, do that. Start to make those habits and do that. But people, exercise equipment too. That's like, we buy it and then we never use it, and it turns into the clothes hanger and all of the things, right? These are things that people regret, that they're going to someday they're going to use that. Yeah. And they regret it because it takes up space. It takes up maybe prime space, or maybe it takes up all the closet space, makes things harder day to day because things are packed in here and there and gives you some anxiety.
And it's giving you that guilt every time you see it of, oh, I didn't use it. I didn't sort through that. I don't like that. All of those little negative things.
And it can stop you from living your life. It can delay, moves or renovations or lifestyle changes. Your stuff can get so heavy that it actually, crushes your life, honestly. And so be careful with that. If that's the case, just start letting go of things a little bit at a time. But, and they cost money to store and move and maintain.
I think people who are past that and have done those things, the question they ask themselves, that if you ask yourself early, you can, skip that regret, is why didn't I give myself permission sooner?
Yeah.
So we've said it before, we'll say it again, but we're giving you permission.
Right. If you need somebody to give you permission, we are giving you the permission to let it go.
Yeah.
And I think that you don't realize the weight you're carrying, the emotional weight that you're carrying around it, around knowing that it needs to be handled, around thinking about what's going to happen in the future with it, around, feeling just low grade agitation that it's all there that you have to deal with. And that's why people say they just feel so free and they feel so much lighter and all of those things, because they have lifted that emotional weight that they have been carrying so long they don't even notice that it's there.
Yeah. Yeah. So this stat will blow your mind, but the average American household has 300,000 items, and most people only use the same 150 items daily.
That's way more than the 80-20 rule.
That's way more. Way more. That's so out of balance with what we're hanging on to versus what we're actually using. And if there's all of those other hundreds of thousands of items that we're not using, each one of those is a little unsettled decision inside that they're just all pinging around in your head, whether you realize it or not.
Yeah, and decision fatigue is real. So that's why when you turn it into this project where you finally get to the place where you're like, oh my gosh, I can't deal with this, we need to do it, then you just feel like, oh, it's so overwhelming because you have to make 300,000 decisions, right?
Yeah.
So, and we know the 80-20 rule is you usually probably only use about 20% of the stuff in your house, and 150 out of 300,000 is even way, way less than that. But we can get rid of a lot of things and not change our life at all.
Yeah. So the next category, some regrets that people are fearful that will happen, but we'll talk about how you can prevent that, are, people are fearful of tossing things too quickly and making a decision that they're going to regret. They think a lot about this with old photos and family history. So one way to avoid that would be making sure you're scanning those things so they're still accessible, they're not gone. Or maybe having someone, the family, help you organize, help you distribute it to the people that it needs to go to, loading things onto revolving photo frames so you can enjoy them without the bulk. Lots of things so you're not feeling like, what just happened? Where'd that go?
Yeah. Kids' artwork, handwritten notes, cards. People, keep those kind of things. You can take pictures of that kind of stuff if you want to. Items connected with major life milestones, wedding albums, military keepsakes and awards and stuff. So be careful with that stuff just in the beginning. So heirlooms that they didn't fully understand what the meaning of them was, and that's where we talk so much about what the story is and how it matters. And then if you hear the story later and don't have the thing, sometimes you can feel like, oh my gosh, why won't we have that thing? Because, there's this fantastic story around it. But remember,
the story still lives.
Yeah, the story still lives.
Yeah, I think especially back to like the artwork and cards and notes and all of that, that is a category that is so, everything in, nothing out. You tend to just have a box or a basket or wherever it collects, and you just keep putting in, but you never edit through that. And if you go through that, I don't think we're saying like you can't keep any cards that are meaningful, but if you just keep throwing in that bin, you will have cards, signed by an old coworker from 40 years ago that you can't remember,
right,
or things like that. So curating that down lets you treasure those ones that you do keep. And I think the same with your kids' artwork.
Well, and I was looking at, I had a bunch of cards. I used to keep cards when I was younger. And so I have a lot of cards from people who've passed away. But a lot of them just say love grandma, or whatever.
Yeah.
So there isn't like, I do have a few that have like an actual written something in it. So that is more, I would want to keep that more. I can keep one love grandma if that's the only thing I have, but I don't need to keep every year of love grandma, because like to me that doesn't, it's not the message. And you could take a picture of that and really create like a little photo book of those
from different people.
Yeah,
or
from
however
yeah,
you did.
that's
Yeah.
just kind of then they're all together. They're cohesive into one little book. You're not random cards all over, and you could do some cool things with that. So
Yeah, good
Yeah.
ideas. Just reducing, not necessarily saying,
yeah.
oh, it's all gone.
So why people regret this usually is because they've done some panic purging. Something happens. They are in crisis and now they have to move, and we don't make the best decisions from that place, and we have less time. And so they do some kind of a panic purge. They do stress cleanouts during a divorce or grief, some kind of a loss, or a move that happened quickly for whatever reason. And they just didn't spend the time to make thoughtful choices. And so that's where the regret comes in, because they feel like they should have made better choices, or they would have made different choices if they weren't working from a place of crisis or in
Time
this kind of
crunch,
time
yeah.
crunch panic thing. And so, and maybe assuming things didn't have value, but later in life they wanted it, right? And so, but some of that we can't control. There may be some things here and there that whatever, but we can't control whether we're panic purging or what our time frame looks like, because if we're not moving today, we can start that process today and spend the time that we need to slowly go through it, and then there won't be regret about it because you will have had the time to look at it.
Yeah, I love that so much when we're, at our classes or meeting people that we've, seen over and over, and they're so excited to tell us how they're working. They may have come to our class and said, we're not moving for 2, 3, 5 years. But then we see them, out and about, and they're like, oh my gosh, you'll be so proud of me. I've been working on this. I've been working on that. And that makes it, they're not feeling that regret because they're doing it at their pace, but they know they're preparing for what their plan is. And, it's just that success over time with those small habits.
Yes, for sure. So people, I think they just regret the rash decisions more than they regret the slow ones. So if you're doing stuff in a big rush, that's where you can kind of end up with things that you wish you had. And so take the time early when you can. Regrets that people, things they kept for others. Like the whole bin of the kid stuff that you think they're going to want and then they don't want it. You kept their kid things, and because they might want them, right?
Yeah.
And I can see this on some level. When your kids are younger, they don't see in the future that they might want something, right? Well, you've talked about the Advent was it the Advent calendar with Stephen?
Yeah, the little countdown calendar.
The countdown calendar. And how, like, when he was 17, if you're like, I'm going to get rid of this, he'd be like, whatever. Or 20 or 25,
Yeah.
But now that he has kids, it's like, oh, wait, no, I want that, right? And so it's hard to manage that when you're like, okay, we had a lot of great memories around this thing, and the kids now in this, those middle years are like, I don't want that. And then later they're like, hey, where's that? And you're like, I got rid of that. You said you didn't want that, right?
Yeah.
So that's a little bit hard to manage, but I think in thinking about that and me thinking about that, because that's the age my kids are now, is how many memories do my kids have around that thing?
Yeah.
Right? So if it's the countdown calendar that came out every Christmas, I'd probably keep that and think they might want that someday or whatever, because that was something that happened. Like my Advent calendar, I'm not getting rid of that until, whatever, because I feel like they will want it, or I'll keep it up for the grandkids or whatever that looks like, because there's a lot of memories around that. If it's the one outfit that they wore at one time when they were 4, you have some memories around it, but they don't. That's probably not something that they're going to want to keep, because there's not so many memories around it.
Yeah, and I think this is a great category where parameters work so well, having one bin for each child, or one bin of, back to Christmas decorations or things that are family traditions, continuing those traditions until you aren't able to, and then passing those on. But not keeping every single thing, because it's hard for them to process through a large volume of things. But when you have condensed the stories into the ones that make you think about them, and or you know how important it was to them, they do enjoy that. Like, here's your one box of things, and that moment of going through it. I've just gone through that with my older kids through the move. I'm like sending them pictures as I'm just kind of repacking their stuff and going through it. And, some of it we got through or got rid of even more, but some of it, my daughter was just over and she's like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize you kept our little toddler chair. I love that so much. I can't, I'm so glad you kept it. But there's not a problem with the other 1,000 things that I've gotten rid of.
But I also think she's happy about it because she sees it now. But if you had gotten rid of it, she probably wouldn't be like, hey, where's my toddler chair? Like, that wouldn't have, it wouldn't have been a regret, like, necessarily. So,
yeah. But it's just that parameter of here's what I've kept in a small portion.
Yeah. And here's something else, not just holding stuff for your kids, but holding your parents' stuff. And maybe for your siblings, like maybe you're the holder of the things because you had more space, or you're the more sentimental one, or whatever that is. But you're ready to move on, and you have all this stuff, we'll call it guilt, about all of this parent stuff or grandparent stuff that you were holding because your sister might want it, or holding because, whatever, and nobody's coming to get it, and it doesn't fit into your next chapter. Again, we're giving you that permission. Like, it's okay to let it go, because don't let that hold you down from your future trying to keep things for others. People regret that. People regret having kept it for too long.
Realistically, they're giving you the easy answer. Your siblings might be saying, oh yeah, I might want something, I'll come take a look. But when they're not putting that into action and showing up to take a look, help you get stuff to the donations, and taking what they want, that is the answer on how the importance of it.
Yeah.
So it's okay to move that forward and get some of that gone.
Yeah, and when you're looking at this stuff, I would think really legacy-like, right? So if it's grandma's mixing bowl that she used to mix everything, you might want to keep that. Like, that might be something, because that's a legacy item. But you're not keeping every bowl that she had, or every,
her entire kitchen.
Yeah, everything. So, because the way that regret shows up is feeling like you've wasted, like, years of closet space and basement space, and again, emotional, mental space, physical, toll if you've moved it and packed it and moved it from house to house, which we definitely have people who, when they are moving boxes they never even opened from one house to the next house. We've definitely seen that with our clients.
Yeah.
And then there's some emotional resentment that comes up sometimes with that stuff. Don't resent your kids because they don't want the stuff that you save for them. That was your choice to save it for them. Like, don't resent them.
Yeah.
And your parents, or whoever, your siblings that aren't coming to get it, your parents who said you needed to keep their grandparents' stuff, like all of that stuff, it's just stuff, right? Like, like the level of emotional turmoil that can come around it doesn't have to. Like, that's a choice.
Yeah, choose that path that clears your mental space and your, decision fatigue, and gets you through it. And that is okay. The guilt does not need to come with all of those decisions. Right.
Okay. Another regret. A regret about not capturing the story first. So we talk about this all the time. Sometimes it's okay and easy to let go of things once you've told the story. You tell the story. You hear it in your mind. You decide if that story, after you've said it out loud and heard it in your mind, is worth keeping the thing, right? You might know the story. I have this Christmas ornament. I got it because it was tied onto a package that was from the store. It has the store's logo on it. Like, it's not important to you. Like, it wasn't like somebody handmade that Christmas ornament for you, or, you know, when you say this, you might know the story, but when you say the story, it might not be important enough to keep. And so since you've said the story, you can let it go.
Yeah, I think saying that story to someone else makes that a really apparent how important that story is. If you're kind of like, what am I even going to say about this?
Yeah, like you don't know the story.
Yeah.
Or you do know the story, but the story is like, you know, like we were at the gas station, they were giving those free. Like, you know.
Yes.
So unless it was some amazing, you know, trip or something, like there could be better, you know, backstory. But if it's just something super silly, then you're just like, okay, I don't need that. And you can hear that in yourself and easily give it away then after. It's just not like there's no regret about giving it away.
Yeah.
Versus, I just gave my whole box of Christmas ornaments away. You don't know what was in there. You didn't tell the story. You don't know. So then you think, there must have been something that I must have wanted. You know, it's a different feeling.
Yeah, this is a good spot to have someone there to help you work through those stories, be the listener for the stories. You get that satisfaction of telling it and the ease of then giving it away. And then, like we've said before, don't pick the friend that's going to encourage you to keep it all.
Yeah, not the keeper friend, not the emotional one. And this stuff, stories that you can capture are stories around legacies of the people. So if there are military things, you know, maybe you can hear the military stories. If it's dad's tools because he used to fix everything, you know, maybe you can talk about his hammer and, you know, whatever. Yeah. Like there will be stories around some of this stuff. You can audio record those stories. You can video record those stories. You can write those stories down. There's a lot of ways that you can keep those stories going and not necessarily have to keep the things. So legacy studies show that people regret losing the context of it more than the thing, right? They regret losing the story and the reason of it more than the thing itself.
Yeah, and this is one of those places that if you're at the very early stages of considering downsizing, you can start doing this even if you're not at the place of getting rid of all of these heirloom items, but later on, if you're going to somewhere smaller, you won't be able to keep it all. This is when you can write those stories on a little piece of paper and tuck it inside, or take the photo and write a journal entry about it, because that gives you that peace of mind that if that crisis comes up and things need to happen faster than you thought, you're not regretting that someone else had to make those choices for you, or that things got swept up in a moment of a time crunch, or you not being able to go back and go through them yourselves. You can just live knowing, okay, I'm ready. I've already done that mental sorting. I've gotten rid of the things that weren't important at all, and I'm good to hold at this spot.
Because if it ends up being your kids having to do it, and there's 300,000 items in the house, they cannot figure out what was important and what was not, because it's too much. The bulk of it is too much for them to try to physically understand.
And too much all at once.
Yes, too much all at once. Probably, potentially during grief, all of it's, too hard, believe me.
Yeah.
I've been there for that. It's too much to try to figure out what's important and what isn't. So the regrets that people didn't expect, and these are the ones that I think are the most important to think about. Number one, not starting sooner. Because what happens when you don't start sooner is that you end up doing it at a time of crisis. Because when you're saying tomorrow comes when the crisis comes, because you've put it, like you're just putting it off. So not starting sooner because they didn't get to have that time that they needed to do it without regret.
Yeah, those rash decisions.
Yeah, not involving loved ones in the process. That's back to, you need to share the stories, and you want to share them with the people you care about. And so if you have those people, have them come over. Go through some stuff. Just, tell them, hey, I'm going to go through this stuff and we're going to let it go. And if most kids will be like, oh my gosh, thank gosh, mom is going to let things go. I'm coming over, right?
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. Because they want that to happen. They don't want to feel responsible for your things and not knowing what was important or not. So,
and honestly, they likely will not want a great deal of the stuff, but as the adult kid, they enjoy hearing the stories. The items can still go,
Yeah.
but they're learning little pieces
About
you, about their life when they were little,
Yeah.
about the whole family in those little things. And that is a memory creating moment
Yeah.
that they will treasure, even if the stories are told and the items go.
Right. Not asking parents about the meaning behind items before they passed. I had a lot of this. I had a lot of this stuff at my mom's house where I knew that there was some importance to it and I knew that it came from somebody, but I don't know who and I don't know, the real story behind it. And I never will again. Those stories are gone now. And so that stuff feels yucky. And so back to the not starting sooner, that first one, if you start sooner, you can write the stories, you can share the stories, you can tell the stories. And so you won't feel bad later because the important items that have the stories will still be there with the stories. So no matter if something happens suddenly, you've already done it. You've done it and it's there.
Yeah, I'm so thankful. I was just talking with my mom about this, but my grandparents, her parents were antique dealers in the heyday of Coliseum antique shows and had so many. And, my parents took that up as a hobby when they were younger. And so just so many antiques in my life. But I don't have, my siblings and I don't have an interest in that continuing. But so to us, all antiques in the house, if there was no notation, they're all equally, well, they're just antiques, we have to deal with them. But there are definitely pieces that are important to the family or have a story or important to my parents for what they bought. And my mom has done such a good job of, she's like, okay, the family ones that are important, those are, on the first level, and, the stuff in the basement is the remnants that I'm still trying to get rid, and so we know with that, we need to really think about these ones, or at least look at the stories and see who wants it. But the rest, she's made those decisions and put those filters on it by, doing that over time. So we're not going to lose the really important ones by just being like, I don't know anymore.
Right. Yeah. And not knowing doesn't feel good. So I will say that do the stories if you can on the things that are important, because definitely they get lost if somebody goes before they've done that. So underestimating how much stuff weighed on their mental health. This is back to when they feel so free, they didn't realize how heavy it felt because they lived with it every day and you just got used to that weight of it. And so people regret not doing it sooner because they underestimated how much the stuff weighed on their mind.
Yeah. We started the show by saying, we were going to talk about regrets, but that is really the one we hear the most, is people wish they had done it sooner. And it is so freeing when these things are handled and you have a system for, keeping, it under control, and then you just go live, and there's so much life to live.
Yeah. Yeah, and the last one's interesting. It's holding on to items that actually held painful memories. And so we talk about a lot, is this bringing you joy? Is this something you want to look at all the time? Is this, something that fits into your home that you want to display and look at? Or is it in a box somewhere because you feel guilty for keeping it? And, when you look at it, it doesn't make you feel good. And so if that's the case, again, give yourself the permission to let that go for whatever reason if it doesn't make you feel good. Just like clothes. If you put clothes on and you don't feel good in them, let them go. There's plenty of clothes that are going to make you feel good, and you should do that. You should feel good about what you're wearing. It doesn't matter whether you spent money on it or it was someone else's or any of that stuff. It's about your emotions and regulating what you have in your life, and not having stuff in your life that doesn't make you feel good.
Yeah. So, looking back at all of this, regret is normal but avoidable.
Right.
So, take a listen to those tips we've given and, start earlier, be thoughtful about what you're curating. Start sooner than you think you should.
Yeah, make slow decisions because you have started sooner and you have the time, so you aren't making rash, panic decisions.
Yeah, absolutely. And if there's anything that we can do to help get you through those decisions or get you to the next step when you have made all those decisions, that's what we're here for. Our website, downsizingroadmap.com, and we will be back next time with another episode.
Talk to you next time.
Thanks. Thanks for joining us on the Downsizing Roadmap podcast. If you found this episode helpful, be sure to subscribe, leave us a review, and share it with someone who might need a little downsizing inspiration. Have questions or ideas for future episodes? Reach out to us on our website, www.downsizingroadmap.com. Until next time, let's keep simplifying and moving forward.